Although Brussels claims to be standing up to the imperialistic threat posed by Russia, the European Union itself is not free of imperialistic tendencies, Polish Foreign Minister Zbigniew Rau said in a lengthy opinion piece for the Polish Respolita journal published this month. Germany is one of the driving force behind these aspirations, he added. And here's the quote from his interview. Some of the more powerful member states of the European Union have often attempted to dominate their partners, impose their arguments on them, disregard their rights, interests and needs, while paying no attention to their protests, Rao stated, calling for reforms to strengthen the role of smaller states in the decision-making process. The increased role of the majority vote in the European Union decision-making process advocated by Berlin poses a particular threat to freedom and equality within the bloc, Rao believes. He says, small and medium-sized states who are disproportionately less capable of building effective coalitions are doomed to lose the vote even when their own essential interests or needs are affected, the minister said, adding that their fate is then decided by others, which meant and means that their freedom is fundamentally violated. End of the quote. Larger European Union nations like Germany possess an unquestionable economic advantage and demographic potential, which also translates into a voting power in the EU decision-making process, which small and medium-sized states are unable to counterbalance even by acting together, according to Rao. He also claimed that Berlin uses the advantage to pursue its national interests at the expense of others. The minister demanded that Berlin curb both its economic and political ambitions, and he said the German offer is to defend the European Union from imperialism, which Germany feels responsible to do. The Union does not need German leadership, but German self-limitation. End of the quote. Now, Zbigniew Ziobro is not the only Polish leader to publicly express concerns about the German ambitions. Please notice from December of the last year, notice the following. It was published as an article entitled Berlin wants EU to be Fourth German Reich, says Poland's Kaczynski. And now we're going to see the relevant quotes from this article. Poland's national populist leader Jarosław Kaczynski accused Germany of trying to turn the European Union into a federalist Fourth German Reich in an interview published Friday. That was Friday of the last year of December. There are countries that are not enthusiastic about the prospect of building a German Fourth Reich on the basis of the EU, the Law and Justice Party president told Polish far-right daily GPC. According to Kaczynski, who is also Poland's deputy prime minister in charge of national security, the term Fourth German Reich has nothing negative about it, as it is not the Third Reich, but the first, in effect, the Holy Roman Empire. During the recent visit of the new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to Poland, his Polish counterpart Mateusz Morawiecki described the German coalition government's support for greater federalism in the European Union as utopian and therefore dangerous, and reiterated that his government backed the concept of a Europe of sovereign nations. This was published last December by Euronews. Yes, dear friends and dear listeners, the Germans and others are working for a type of a so-called Holy Roman Empire, which some have also dubbed the Fourth Reich. Adolf Hitler called his regime the Third Reich. While Poland has expressed concerns, the Bible shows that when certain reorganizations happen in Europe, power will be given to a dictator. Please turn to Revelation 17 if you have your Bible at hand, and if not, you can just listen to the quote from Revelation 17 verses 12 and 13. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power of authority to the beast. Europe will end up supporting a totalitarian dictator who will rule a new empire. The Germans and other Europeans have been looking to have a revived Holy Roman Empire, as the following attests, and this is the article entitled "The Holy Roman Empire Can Help Inspire a Different European Union." This was published on 24th of January 2016, and it says, Germany's past casts a long shadow. We should look back in time to when Germany was part of the Holy Roman Empire. The empire scarcely seems worthy of discussion today. If it has any resonance at all, it is usually thanks to Voltaire's quip that it was neither Holy, Roman, nor an empire. Founded by Charlemagne on Christmas Day 800, the empire appeared to go into decline almost immediately until being swept away as an obsolete irrelevance by Napoleon in 1806. The negative interpretation of the empire rests on seeing it as a series of failed attempts to create a German nation-state. In this version of history, a succession of monarchs tried to create central institutions capable of imposing a uniform system of rule, only to be thwarted by the selfish ambitions of petty German princes. In fact, the empire was never simply Germany. It covered what is now Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, the Czech Republic, much of Italy, and parts of France and Poland. We expect empires to have a clear and stable core inhabited by an imperial people that imposes its own will on peripheral regions. But the Holy Roman Empire had no core because it never possessed a clear center of government or even an official capital. Instead, power was always multiple and plural. The management of daily life was devolved to more local powers. The most significant change across the centuries was not a progressive fragmentation of an originally centralized power, as previous generations of historians believed. Rather, it was a gradual thickening of local power that drew its legitimacy from its relationship to the empire as a whole. Imperial charters and laws sanctioned local rights and liberties. So that article that was published on Katechon.com basically thinks that a confederation with a lot of local power is what can drive the European Union. Well, I'm going to quote to you an old article, a writing from an old article published in the past by the former Worldwide Church of God, because this article is as relevant today as it was back then. It says, throughout the Middle Ages, leaders considered the Church at Rome to be God's chosen instrument in spiritual matters. The Holy Roman Empire was regarded as God's chosen political organization over Western Christendom. Pope and Emperor were regarded as God's vice-regents on earth. This intimate alliance of church and state served the needs of both institutions. The empire exercised its political and military powers to defend religion and enforce internal submission through religious uniformity. The church, in turn, acted as a glue for Europe, holding together the differing nationalities by the tie of common religion. This ideal in church-state relations was never completely realized, as we have seen in the frequent conflicts between emperors and popes. Numerous revivals of the Roman Empire have arisen in Europe in the centuries since the fall of ancient Rome. In Revelation 17, these revivals are represented by the 7 heads of a wild animal. 6 have already occurred, from Justinian, who was the Byzantine emperor, from Justinian to Mussolini. One last restoration of this great political system is yet to arise. In fact, we are seeing it right now arising before our very eyes. This confederated Europe will be an immense political, this was written in the last century, by the way, but now we see it, how it is being formed and shaped right now in our time. So this last restoration of this great political system is yet to rise. This confederated Europe will be an immense political, military, and economic power, a great third force in world affairs, a superpower in its own right. Prophecy further reveals that this powerful church-state union will be composed of 10 horns, meaning 10 nations or 10 groups of nations, Revelation 17:3, under the overall leadership of a single political figure, verse 13. Europe will again have a single political head of state. Moreover, prophecy foretells that a religious figure of unprecedented power and authority will sit astride the empire, directing it as a rider guides a horse. Revelation 17:3. To counter the ongoing spread of atheism, secularism, and consumerism, the Vatican, as in centuries past, will be forced to become a major power in the international arena. The political muscle of the papacy will be reinvigorated. Well, this was published back in 1984, and it was published as part of a publication entitled The History of Europe and the Church, published by Ambassador College Publications. Well, as far as popes go, Pope Francis does have a plan for a Roman Empire, and it includes Europe. Pope Francis was given the 2016 Charlemagne's Prize. Pope Francis won that prize, a prize given to the one who is recognized for promoting the most European Union and European unity. The idea of a revived Holy Roman Empire is not just some pipe dream. Desmond A. Birch, a Roman Catholic writer who some of us have both read and spoken with, has made the following observations. Several private prophecies of canonized saints specifically state that there will be a latter restoration of the Holy Roman Empire, and that there will be at least one last Holy Roman Emperor. The authenticity of the authorship of such prophecies is of canonized saints. For example, Saint Hildegard, Saint Vincent Ferrer, Saint Francis of Paula, Saint John Vianney, at least over the last 800 years, is scholastically unquestionable. The great king will be crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the reigning Pope. This was published in 1996 by Birch, D.A., Trial, Tribulation, and Triumph before, during, and after Antichrist. So, published in 1996. Now, Roman Catholics expect that a pope will make someone the leader of the future Holy Roman Empire. That leader, called the Great King above, is commonly referred to as the Great Monarch in Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox prophecies, but he shares many characteristics with an individual the Bible warns against. Now, despite the Poland's concern about all of this, about Germany, its Roman Catholic ties look to be a factor that will get Poland to, at least temporarily, support the coming German-dominated beast power. In February of last year, State of Nation reported that some Germans were attempting to engineer a Fourth Reich. And I'll be quoting now the most important passage from this, and the following excerpt from a highly detailed expose entitled Schwab Family Values says it all. The last question that should be asked about the real motivations behind the actions of Herr Schwab may be the most important for the future of humanity. Is Klaus Schwab trying to create the fourth industrial revolution, or is he trying to create the Fourth Reich? Well, not what is very confounding about the emerging Fourth Reich is that it's not just a fascist superstate. In point of fact, the rapidly manifesting Fourth Reich also has many attributes of a communist regime controlled by a still concealed one world government. And consider the statement taken from Merkel's Wikipedia page. At the Academy of Science, she became a member of the FDJ Secretariat. According to her former colleagues, she openly propagated Marxism as a secretary for agitation and propaganda. Well, how ironic that a German chancellor would be a closet communist who successfully conquered the European continent until Nazi tactics and fascist strategies. This analysis only, grazes the tiny tip of the colossal iceberg known as the New World Order. Well, dear friends, we see this coming, so we have already warned you that there is a German-dominated Europe coming, so we see it really being realized. You can find more information and more world analysis on our website, www.biblenewsprophecy.net. My name is Alexander Sashavedis. This was the Bible News Prophecy program. Until next time, goodbye, friends.